Hey guys, welcome to an edition of Rim Shots with Sean on Eastlink TV. I'm here at Dolan's with a long and overdue interview with my friend Bruce Hughes, and you're going to hear a tale here that might surprise you for anybody that knows Bruce. Thank you for doing this, man.
Oh no, my pleasure. Always good to see you, Sean.
So long overdue. So I guess the first thing, you guys are back playing again. You hadn't heard, you played here a few weeks ago. Apparently there's a power outage, but it still happened.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool gig actually. Ended up with a good crowd showing up, even though the power was out all over downtown. Dolan's has backup power, and people came.
Well, the thing about Dolan's is it doesn't matter. It's just a very, you feel like you're part of a big family here. It's such a cool bar, right?
Oh yeah, I've played here since the early '90s when the previous owner had it. So
that would have been Terry Dolan.
Yeah,
is that
Terry.
correct?
Yeah, I played basketball against Terry.
There you go. So I guess we'll start with, you have a book that I think we thought it might have been out by now, but I mean, these things take time.
Yeah.
So for the viewers here on Eastlink TV, why don't you tell them what the book's about?
Okay. I've written about the first 18 months of my stroke journey after I had a series of the rarest strokes you can have. I was paralyzed from the eyes down, and the next 18 months I spent learning to walk and talk and play my guitar again, and do all the things you took for granted before. But I had to start somewhere, and actually it's funny we're doing this right here because the opening scene is right here in Dolan's. It was on our anniversary. They were announcing it was Media Day for Harvest, and they were announcing a reunion show we hadn't played in like 18 years, my old blues band. And 3 weeks later, I had this series of strokes, and I'm paralyzed from the eyes down in the hospital. So,
and obviously, did you have any lead up to that? Like, was there any signs that something was going on? So it's just out of the blue, boom, there you go.
It was, I wasn't feeling well, but I was taking care of my wife at home who had a broken back, and I just said one day, I said, she hadn't driven for like 7 months. I said, can you see if you can drive today and maybe go to your doctor's appointment yourself? And I just got up and went down, classic signs, of a stroke. And luckily she was there to call the ambulance and save my life.
So you said you had a series, so it wasn't just one. Was it all within the same time frame or pretty close to each other?
From about 8:30 in the morning until 4.5 hours later in the emergency room when they finally figured me out, because it was such a rare stroke, no one knew what was happening. I was stroking on both sides and ended up paralyzed from the eyes down, skull locked in, and my future was basically going to be blinking. And in my mind, I knew about neuroplasticity from working with kids in my education background. And I just laid there in the ICU in St. John and just willed myself to move. And, within a few hours, limbs were moving, and they were freaking out about that.
Well, so talk about that, because you and I talked about that, and you kind of told me the concept and what it is. But just talk about that concept of that.
Of the neuroplasticity?
Yes.
Most people would consider the simplicity of it is mind over matter. That you can heal yourself. Mine was just, I was driven to do it because I was scared to death. I was laying there, couldn't talk, couldn't do anything. My wife trying to heal from a broken back, just not knowing how she's even going to take care of me. And I just knew I had to do everything I could. And I am one of the lucky ones that was able to do it. And they now have data that was just published recently in some journal. I have the information at home. They're going to restart the study because the pandemic got into it. But they said they have the data to prove I have rewired my brain, that my affected side doesn't know I've had this stroke or series of strokes. Even though people who know me, I still slur and I can't feel very well or barely hang on to a pick, and I can only strum now. I can't play any lead. So coordination hasn't totally come back, but
Well, but I mean, so a lot of people, I don't want to say would give up, but I mean, like you're in a situation where, and this is not a shot at any professionals, but I think doctors are taught to deal in what they feel is reality, and so it's very much this is the way it's going to be. And so when somebody kind of looks at no, I'm not going to accept that. You're probably fighting a battle of one or maybe two.
Well, because I can't talk yet or anything,
Right.
it's only me. Like, and my wife is, we've been together 42 years. Luckily, she can read me pretty well. She was probably the only one who could, and it was scary. Like, I mean, you're laying there, no one expecting anything of you except yourself, like you say,
Right.
and just going into that survival mode, and every day seeing these little improvements that they're blown away with, but I'm going, this isn't enough. I was laying there with a catheter. Like, my first goal was actually to be able to just go to the bathroom. If that was all I could ever do again on my own,
Right.
that would give me a little dignity back.
Well, and it's interesting because, again, so you go, I mean, we're both musicians, and I think music is one of those things where when everything's going sideways, it's the one thing that you can go, yes.
Yes.
Now you got to be thinking of, now maybe this is gone, and the rest of my life is just blinking. Maybe what were some of the things that you were drawing on, besides the motivation to defeat it? What were some of the things you were drawing on to get you through it?
My sister-in-law was one. She was a nurse that had a brain tumor. Her and her husband both had brain tumors 6 months apart, so I had to be involved with helping take care of them. And she had a stroke 2 days later, and very severe like mine was. And to see how far she came and gaining her speech and mobility back. So I had some reference points and just my own personal experience from working with people and stuff, and having my degrees in psychology and stuff. And so the mind has always interested me, and I think it benefited me. And all the doctors are pretty sure that I've talked to, because when I went to the World Stroke Conference in Montreal a few years ago, all of them were blown away with how fast I got my motor skills, my motor skills back. And they all asked me, what did I do when I went home? And I said, well, I just tried to play my guitar. I mean, I think that's probably helped the musical mind as a way of rewiring.
And the mind is a funny thing, right? Because it can elevate you to great heights, but it can put you in the dumps too. And it's really what you put into it and what you take out of it, right? We're going to take a little break here on Eastlink TV with Bruce Hughes, and we'll be back after this. Welcome back to Rim Shots with Sean Bryce here at Eastlink TV after Friday Night Hockey. Hope you liked the game. It's always a good time. And thank you so much to the boys for having me on there a few weeks ago. It was a lot of fun. So we're here at Dolan's. It's the night before New Year's Eve, which is very exciting. This is night 3 for me of what will be 4, so that's exciting. Here with Bruce, who, so a musician who, you got a teaching background too.
I worked in education, for probably half my life, working with young people. I did some classroom stuff too, but that wasn't my forte. Was more on like the guidance and our end and dealing with kids that needed a break.
Right on. And so obviously you get into music. And what I guess, what was it like to go back playing the first time? Because you mentioned like you couldn't do leads, and you talked to me about this before, where sometimes your fingers just don't work the way they used to. But you may get it back, who knows, right? But what was it like to get back and go, I'm playing again with the boys?
Oh, for me, I knew it was going to be a long haul, and I even begged them to get somebody else, because we were just starting to really develop a very good band, and I knew they deserved it. And they said, no, we'll wait. And every Sunday for a year, we went to our rehearsal space, and they'd let me sit in the corner, drooling and tearing the backs out of my fingers because I couldn't hold a pick, and just strumming away, just trying to get it back. And they stuck with me. And about a year later, we had a gig, and it was the next summer here in Fredericton, and about it was a 90 or 2-hour set, and I didn't know if I could stand that long. So I bought a little stool, and I still have it. And for about the next 5 or 6 gigs that had long sets, I would just set it off to the side in case I needed it, because I didn't know. So it was a lot of patience on my bandmates' part to wait for me, and I'm glad they did.
Well, that's super cool. So we'll talk about the band here a little bit. So the Unheard. So I've seen video. I haven't seen you guys live. I met some of the guys. Great guys. That's an all original band.
Yeah.
So you guys are doing all your own stuff.
Yeah, it's funny how it started with the Unheard. We didn't have a name, but we were doing our goal. We were doing material even if you knew of the band, maybe something deep cut you hadn't heard of. And our whole shtick was, you know, if you know a song, raise your hand. And our favorite nights were the nights no one raised a hand, but liked all the songs anyway.
Yeah.
And then when we get into our own stuff, we just thought we'd keep the name anyway.
Sure. So, you know, I've been coming to Fredericton now. This is probably my 7th year. Love coming here.
Yeah.
I mostly do the cover stuff, right?
Yeah.
Halifax, I do a little bit of both, and I've done, you know, across the country, I've done both.
Yeah, you've done your share of both.
I've done a lot, and I'm doing more. But the interesting thing about Fredericton, so we were here last time. We saw Barry Hughes. So Barry owns, his brother owns Dolans. They have a band called Sleepy Driver. We saw them at the Chrome Club, which is
next
across
door.
the park.
I was there.
My takeaway from that was, wow, what support for original music. I mean, the bar was packed. Everybody was into it. Is the scene good like that here?
We have, I call it, and I use the hashtag all the time, Best Little Music City, Northern Nashville, because even though there's not as many venues as there used to be, the original music that comes out of this little city is incredible. Like, you know, we're going around talking to other original bands saying, let's do something in it, even if we have to rent a bigger venue, you know, like, there's just such good original music coming out of this town that doesn't get the support it needs outside of a couple times a year where there's a festival or something like that. There's lots of small clubs. I don't know what it's like in Halifax anymore, but you know.
So Halifax, it's funny. I was actually on a thread today where it centered around a couple New Year's Eve gigs getting canceled, and it just blew up. Halifax is a funny city in that, you know, you have the cover circuit, you have the original circuit.
Yeah.
The original circuit, those people really tend to support each other and go to each other's venues. The cover thing is, I don't know, it's competitive. I mean, I'm not one to ever really be competitive. I don't compete with myself, but I'd like to see it improve. I mean, you know, we have the Junos coming up. You know, fingers crossed that does some good stuff for the city.
Yeah, I'd like to have a book release and their album at the same time.
Well, wouldn't that be cool, right?
And maybe a show that night or something.
Done at Scotia Square, where they get a wonderful bookstore right in the hall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
See, I don't know my way around there. I'm going to need a guide.
Oh, hey, I'm your guy, man. Trust me. Everybody knows me, especially the politicians that just love me so much. But
I've interviewed a few of them.
Yeah. So, in terms of the Unheard, what do you guys have coming up for shows?
Well, right now we cut all the bed tracks just before Christmas. I was hoping to do my overdubs this week, but probably next week get the vocals done, then get it mixed. So get the album out, or maybe even a couple singles first. We're trying to figure that out because today it's a lot different than it was earlier, and you're just trying to figure out how do you sell music today.
Well, my plug for Indie Tune Records, because I'm a part of it.
Yeah, I've been following that.
Yeah, and one of the things that I don't think there's an exact science.
Yeah.
But it appears that most of the people are having most success by putting out singles and focusing on algorithms and playlists. And, you know, to do a full album is great, but to release it all at once, I don't think it, in this day and age, captures people's imagination as much as it should. It's unfortunate, but it's just the world that we live in.
Yeah, we're going to be picking some brains because the days when I recorded my old band and stuff, we just sold stuff from the stage because we were independent artists. You know, you couldn't afford to put it out in CD because before they changed the laws, wholesale CDs were like $17.
Yeah.
So to sell them, you know, so cassettes was the way to go back then.
I remember like a band that I had in the 90s. I mean, we sold thousands of cassettes at Sam the Record Man on Barrington Street. And every time we had a show, it was great. It's changed, no real question. And some people are like, oh, you know, it's no good. I don't think it's not any good. I think it's just different. You just got to figure out how to navigate it. And the only piece of advice I would give somebody is find out who's doing it and have the success and ask them. Because I always say, going across the minefield by yourself when somebody's already perfected it is probably one of the silliest things you can do. So when do you think that album's going to be out?
We're hoping early 2024. Like it's for me as soon as possible, but I would like to time it with the books and maybe piggyback that.
Yep.
And like I say, do something creative, like, you know, do book signing in a show kind of thing.
Sure.
We're trying to spread our regional wings, and I can't think of a better way to do it than combine those two things.
Well, it's cool. I mean, Barstools and Band Talk, really, I have all these little things that came out of the silly little podcast. It was just supposed to be a 5-week project. So it's like we rehearse this. We're going to take one more break here on Eastlink TV. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about your book after this. Welcome back to Rim Shots with Sean, right here at Eastlink Community TV, and thank you so much for the folks at Eastlink for supporting this little podcast and this little TV show. It's been a treat, and more to come. Here with my buddy Bruce Hughes. So now, you wrote a book about all this, and I guess the first question I'll ask is, how did that come about? Was it an idea you had? Somebody approach you?
Book?
Yeah.
Oh, many interviews. I did a lot of interviews because I was such a rare thing. CBC followed me around for about a month, documented everything, and then did a huge online radio, TV thing. And in all the interviews, I would always get asked, are you going to write a book? And I never thought of it. So, just went, and I thought, well, maybe someday, because I like to write. I wrote songs, and I used to write for papers.
Right.
And I was doing some short stories and stuff online just to practice my skills. And then the pandemic hit. And, throughout all this, because I recovered so well, but not well enough to go back to work, I've never received a dime of any disability or anything. And it was really hard financially.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I'm ever going to write a book, now would be the time, because I knew my type of stroke affected my lungs. Because it's in the brainstem category, and I knew I would be home until vaccines were created. So I figured I was home for 3 or 4 years, and I thought, now's the time to try. So I decided to write it. I could only sit for half an hour at a time. The screen would give me massive headaches, and I turned off the spell checker and grammar check because I knew it was going to be bad, but I knew I had to rewire my brain.
Yep.
18 months later, I turned it back on, and there were only like 51,000 words, but 250-some thousand errors, like 250,000 errors. So I took another 18 months and edited it myself because of the rewiring process before I would hand it to anybody for editing. And so it took about 3 years to get it done. Yeah.
So how many pages is it clocking at?
Oh, I don't know yet. Like that'll be up to the publisher.
Okay.
They get the final say.
Okay.
Fantastic Nova Scotia publisher, Vandalee Jackson, with her Purple Porcupine Publishing. I have a hard time saying that one after my strokes. And she's going to do the final edit. That's where we're working through right now. The final, I guess, would be the final edit or something like that. And then as soon as we can get that out, that'll be out too. So it's for me at 65, it could be my best year ever after all the shit I've been through.
Well, and it's funny because a recurring theme that I've had this year, 2023 for me wasn't a bad year, but 2024, it's like nothing but amazing is what I'm
Looking
taking.
good.
And some people are like, it's going to be another rough year, and it's like, well, okay, fine, but people always equate things to age. I don't have enough years left. I'm too old. And you say that you're 65 and it could be your best year.
Yeah.
That to me says like, wow, a lot of people should jump on that and just say, hey, if I'm having a bad day, send Bruce Hughes a text because, right?
Yeah. Well, like I'm grateful for every day I get. It's been over 6 years since this. If you check out that CBC story, I think it's called "The Stroke of Luck." It's still online. The opening line says it all. Bruce Hughes should be dead.
Yeah.
Right. And so, at 65, to become an author and to be back playing with the band and finally getting a record out, because we got voted top 100 in the CBC Searchlight 2020. Had a series of shows lined up, and the first one the night before the pandemic was declared. Right, so it just totally killed any momentum we had.
So funny story. I was out on the Saturday night, and St. Paddy's Day was going to be on the Tuesday, and it was Lee Fleming Smith's birthday, so we were going to come to Dolan's because we were playing right here where we're sitting. And Saturday night, the bar that I was in was packed. Just like the bar in Star Wars, everybody's bumping, and one guy's like, this is all shut down Monday. I'm like, no way. And then Monday, sure enough. And you're right. Barstool started out of me doing a radio show. It didn't actually go to video. Almost a month and a half later.
A necessity.
Well, now here I am. I'm apparently the mouth of the Maritimes, some people tell me, so that's kind of fun. But I guess anybody that had that happen to them, the people that kind of just decided, okay, you know what, I'm not going to take it lying down, or have some success now.
Yeah.
And you would be one of those guys. I mean, you're about to hit a wave here where a bunch of things are going to come out and start happening for you at 65 years young.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it was. Some people, like, it depends on the day whether I'm the luckiest person in the world or the unluckiest, you
Right.
know? And right now I'm feeling lucky,
Right.
you know, to be here.
Well, and again, we're not going to do like a PSA for positive mental attitude here, but I personally believe luck's what you make it. And it's one of those things where I guess if you buy a lotto ticket and win, there's some form of luck there, but a science would tell you there's a whole series of numbers and whatever that make that happen. But it's amazing to me that when you do stuff and you keep moving forward, stuff does happen for you. Maybe not in your timeline, but it does happen, and you're obviously starting to see that.
Well, I've never had any patience, and I mean, I was hoping for both projects to be done this year, but I just learned that, sometimes you gotta wait, and I guess maybe I am learning patience at 65 as well as hoping to have some success finally, and get something positive. Like the last 5 or 6 years have been really tough, like personally.
Well, and a buddy of mine that by the name of Matt Starr, who plays drums for Ace Frehley and a bunch of guys.
I've checked him out.
Matt always has this thing where you can do all the work. The one thing that you can't control is the timing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that you're going to drive yourself.
A lesson I'm learning.
Right. But when it does happen, if you're doing all the pieces of the puzzle, things will fall into place. So that's pretty cool.
And the important thing is, to me, is I have good people around me doing it all, right?
The key.
People I trust, people I want to do it with. Like, I went down personally and met with the publisher the day before the deadline, and I said, no, I have to meet you in person, right? Like, I need to look someone in the eye if I'm playing with them or writing with them, or, like when the pandemic hit and everything was on, right?
Yeah.
Facebook. People like, are you guys doing a concert? No, that is so impersonal. There's no way I could do that.
I think part of the reason this thing flourished is because we were forced to do this, and we were forced to do Facebook Live. And And I think there was a little thing that where people were kind of feeling down because of what was going on.
Yeah.
We were out there doing some stuff, and I think that's why we had some success. And you know what?
You gave people something to do.
Right, and it got to the point where, oddly enough, my life became weird because it was just, you got to do something all the time. But look, we're almost out of time here in Eastlink TV.
Okay.
Where can we find it? When do we know? Do we know when the book's going to come out?
No, the world will know when I know. Like I said, we're going through the final publishing right now, and that call will be the publishers. Same with the album; it'll be done when it's done, kind of thing. But I'm hoping for early, the first quarter of 2024, say, or the first third. Like, I'm hoping before Easter for both of them.
Bruce Hughes, thank you, man.
Always good to see you, Sean.
Eastlink TV, check it out.